Let's talk about famous speeches. Maybe you've had to give a speech before and you've been slightly terrified at having to stand up in front of a big audience. But as you'll see with some of these people, speeches can have a huge impact. Let's look at our objective for today to explore the several famous speeches that have had a significant impact on history and culture, to understand the context, themes, and significance of these speeches, and recognize their lasting influence today. Let's go ahead and start with the I Have a Dream speech by Martin Luther King Jr., a speech you've probably heard of before. Know that its date was delivered on August 28th, 1963, and the event was the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. The location of this speech was the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. Some iconic imagery from videos of this. The equality and justice, the speech calls for an end to racism and for civil and economic rights. It had a theme of hope and freedom. King speaks of a future where all people will be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Now, the absolute best thing you can do with this speech and with any of the speeches that we run into that you're able to access, if you can access archival or video footage on YouTube, that would be a great thing to do if it's something that's going to have that. If not, it'd be a good idea to read the speech itself. You are going to get the impact and remember the speech better if you watch it or read it as a whole. But these are some speeches you should dive into. The I Have a Dream speech is a great place to start. Some key points on this speech is that it has this vision for the future. King outlines his dream for a society where everyone is equal. There's this call to action. It encourages the audience to continue fighting for civil rights and equality. And its historical significance is that it's considered one of the greatest speeches in American history, and it's this pivotal moment in the civil rights movement as a whole. Next, you need to know the Gettysburg Address by Abraham Lincoln. Now, you're not going to be able to find YouTube footage of this one, but it is one you should read. It was delivered on November 19th, 1863, and that date is significant because it is a dedication for the Soldiers National Cemetery at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, at the site of what was the Battle of Gettysburg. In this speech, Lincoln emphasizes the importance of the United States as a single unified nation together. This democracy and sacrifice theme, he honors those who fought and died at Gettysburg and reinforms the principles of liberty and equality. Now, some key points. The purpose of the speech is to honor the fallen soldiers and redefine the purpose of the Civil War. A whole lot of people died at this battle. He wants to commemorate those Union soldiers that have fallen and kind of, I guess, memorialize everybody that's fallen and use this as another stepping stone to try to bring the country back together. The speech is one of the most quoted in American history, and it helped to unite the nation during a critical time. The next speech you need to know is The Only Thing We Have to Fear is Fear Itself by Franklin D. Roosevelt, or FDR. This speech was given on March 4th, 1933. The event is that it was his first inaugural address. This is the speech that presidents give whenever they first take office, and its location is in Washington, D.C. One key fact to know about FDR is that he's actually going to serve four times, unlike most of the presidents. This was his first inaugural address where this happened. It had themes of courage and resolve. Roosevelt encourages the American people to face the economic challenges of the Great Depression with bravery. He has this theme of hope and recovery. He outlines his plan for recovery and reassures the nation that better times are ahead. This message that things can get better. Some key points is that it restored confidence. Roosevelt's words helped to restore public confidence during a time of economic uncertainty. Just about the worst time of economic uncertainty. Everyone is suffering during this time, or at least most people are suffering during this time. It's also going to bring up these New Deal policies that are going to set the tone for his New Deal. It's a series of programs that he's going to put in place that are going to aim at economic recovery and eventually help the nation begin to recover financially. We Shall Fight on the Speeches by Winston Churchill is another one. The context for this is that it's going to be delivered on June 4th, 1940. It's a speech to the House of Commons during World War II, and the location of this speech is going to be London, England. If you've paid attention to the date here, you're going to know that this is going to come up during World War II and that Times are not great at the time for Britain. Churchill's going to vow that Britain will never surrender regardless of the cost. He calls on the British people to stand firm against the threat of Nazi Germany. Some key points. This is a big morale boost. The speech bolstered British morale during a critical time in World War II. And with Churchill's leadership, it solidified his reputation as a great wartime leader. Go ahead and get into Ask Not What Your Country Can Do for You by John F. Kennedy or JFK. Some context here is that this was delivered on January 20th, 1961. The event is going to be John F. Kennedy's inaugural address in Washington, D.C. It had some themes of public service and patriotism. Kennedy urges Americans to contribute to the public good and take an active role in their country's future, and also global responsibility. He emphasizes cooperation and the pursuit of peace on a global scale. Some key points. There's this call to action. It inspired a sense of civic duty and public service and international relations. It emphasized the importance of global cooperation during the Cold War era, the United States and Russia's Cold War, where basically things aren't happening directly, but they're happening indirectly on various fronts throughout the world. Now, getting into the question here in just a second, keep in mind that these are language arts topics. Why are we bringing up these historical speeches? A big thing to do is to look at the writing or the way these are delivered. The writing is incredibly great for all of these speeches. You are getting an impassioned plea for Americans or British people to basically do certain things or have certain uh, ideas that are going to come up. And it's really important, I think, for language arts students to look at speeches like this in order to help them when they have to write speeches of their own. If you look at some of the best speeches that are out there, it's going to make your own speech writing a whole lot easier to do because you have these sort of models to pattern off of. Now, which speech by FDR, delivered during his first inaugural address, included the famous line, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself," and it aimed to restore public confidence during the Great Depression? Was it "We shall fight on the beaches," the Gettysburg Address, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself," or "I have a dream"? Take a second and pick. That speech is going to be "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." If you want to pause and look at the reason why these are not the correct answers, that's usually a good idea. Take a second afterwards to pause here, look up these speeches, either readings or recordings of them, and get a sense of what they were actually like. Thanks for listening and have a great day.